I stood at the altar, bouquet trembling in my hands. 2 seats in the front row stayed empty, glaring at me like missing teeth in a smile. I kept glancing at the doors. They didn't open. Instead, my brother's voice echoed from the back, just loud enough for me to hear. They had better plans. He smirked like it was a private joke between us. The vows tasted bitter in my mouth after that. I smiled for the photos, but inside, something dark and steady began to grow. When I was a child, I believed my parents were unshakable pillars. I'd race home from school with drawings, and they'd pat my head, before hanging my brother's crooked stick figure on the fridge instead of mine. His has more personality, they'd say. I learned early to swallow disappointment, to live in the spaces they left empty for me. Still, I kept hoping. I thought maybe marriage, my marriage, would be the day they finally saw me. The call came 3 days before the wedding. Mom's voice was flat, almost bored. "Sweetheart, we won't be able to make it. Your brother's hosting a barbecue. He wants us there." I thought she was joking. "You're missing my wedding for burgers and beer?" Her laugh was short. "Family is important." I was family, wasn't I? On the day, I waited. Every footstep in the hallway made my heart leap, until it didn't. By the time I said "I do," I knew they had chosen him over me. Again. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't send a single message asking why. Instead, I started watching, listening. My brother had always been reckless with money. He bragged about investments he didn't understand, and I knew my parents helped him out whenever his ventures crashed. One night I overheard him on a call at a family dinner. He mentioned something about a property deal, under their names, not his. That was my first clue. I began piecing it together like a puzzle. A joint account in my parents' names, a property deed signed by all 3 of them, loans disguised as gifts. They weren't just enabling him, they were tied to him legally, which meant they were vulnerable. I spent months in the background quietly collecting copies of property records, screenshots of online listings, a discreet meeting with a real estate lawyer. The lawyer confirmed it. My brother's investment was a sinking ship. And because my parents were co-owners, their assets would go down with it if the mortgage defaulted. The plan came together naturally. I didn't need to ruin him. He was already doing that himself. All I had to do was make sure I wasn't in the wreckage when it happened. Step 1, sever every legal tie between us. I had my will rewritten, my name changed on old documents, every financial link erased. Quietly, cleanly. Step 2, make them lean harder on the property. I spread word, subtly, that my husband's company was interested in buying distressed assets for quick cash. I made sure my brother heard. He called 2 weeks later. "You still got those business contacts?" he asked. "Why?" "Just wondering if they'd be interested in a property. Quick sale." I played dumb, promised to ask around. When they sold, it was for far less than they'd paid. The buyer was a shell company, owned by a friend of my husband. The mortgage debt still hung over them like a noose. Then came the interest rate hike. Payments doubled. My brother's other ventures collapsed. And suddenly, the 3 of them were drowning in letters from the bank. That's when I made my move. It was a Sunday lunch. I arrived uninvited, dressed in the same white dress I'd worn at the wedding. My husband waited in the car. Mom opened the door, startled. "Why are you—" "I thought I'd bring you something," I said, stepping past her. I placed a folder on the table. Inside, copies of the property sale, the debt records, and a foreclosure notice. Dad's face paled. "How did you?" "I told you once," I cut in, "family is important." My brother's jaw tightened. "You set us up." "No," I said calmly, "you set yourselves up. I just watched." I let the silence stretch until it burned. You missed my wedding, I said finally, for a barbecue. No one spoke. You made your choice. I made mine. I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Oh, and one more thing. Next time you want to use my name to secure a loan, don't. It doesn't exist anymore. They lost the house 6 months later. The bank took everything but the furniture. My brother moved into a dingy apartment. My parents stayed with distant relatives, people they'd barely spoken to in years. I didn't visit. I didn't call. People ask if I regret it. No. Regret is for mistakes, and I didn't make one. They taught me what family meant. I simply returned the lesson, word for word.